Hello everyone, we're back replicating this visualization. So we already have 4 of our charts, but now we have to make the main artist. Center that. Great. And this is this main artist area right here with photos. So the way we do that is by just dragging and dropping, and then we're going to make it into a text table. For our mark, we want to choose a shape, but we want a different shape for each main artist. So because I already have a main artist folder in my Tableau repository, it automatically did that. But let's say I didn't. So every time you create a new set in Tableau, you're going to get a My Tableau repository folder. Within that folder, you have bookmarks, connectors, different things, but you're going to go under Shapes. You're going to create a new folder. Let's title this, let's say we were looking for pictures of Beyonce to put into this. We're going to title it Beyonce, but you want to make sure it goes into the Shapes folder. And then the way you would add different photos to that is you would just take them. Let's say I want this picture of Beyonce. Screenshot it, put it in here. Now it's there. And then when you go to Shapes, it might not pop up instantly. If that happens, just reload your Shapes. Beyonce. And let's say if I wanted to take Beyonce's photo and make it this photo, press it, and it's done. But now we want to make this look the way it does in our visualization. So for that, we're going to have to rotate it, make our size a little bit larger. Let's drag it down a bit. Great. I personally am okay with overlapping because when you tap the artist, it'll isolate their photo. So from there, what you're going to do is make sure that it matches the other workbooks in terms of shading and in terms of font. So we're going to make our title this yellow that we did for all of our other workbooks. Great, now it matches. So now we just have to go to our dashboard. First thing we want to do with our dashboard is make sure that it matches the color that we have on our workbooks. That way everything goes seamlessly. So I do have notes with everything I'm going to put into this dashboard. So because we want our dashboard to run like a scroll, we're going to make our height almost like 2-3 times as much as our width, because we want people to scroll through this the way they scroll through Twitter or Facebook. And you always want it to be floating because that's just the easiest way to do it. So what you're going to do first is press text. You're going to put your title, your research question right at the top, front and center, because it is the most important part of this. And take that. We're going to keep the yellow color just because, like I said, when you have something bold, it pops. Especially when your background is a darker color. We're going to make sure we have, I like this font. It's big, it's bold, people won't miss it. Our title, we want it to be larger and underlined. Our question, we want it to be decently sized because it is the question that we're setting out to find an answer to. And I want to highlight Beyonce's music video collaborations and make them a different color because that's what we're looking at. So we're going to take this, we're going to center it right at the top here. There we have it. Then we're going to take our opening paragraph. It's the same thing. Copy and paste. We have our text here, paste. Now this doesn't have to be as large as a research question, so I chose a size 10 font. It's really just something you eyeball and pick however you like. But we want to keep our font consistent. We want to keep our colors consistent as well. So that's something to note when you're adding text, when you're adding photos. Just make sure it's consistent so that way everything will look like it matches. So there we have it. But from here, first of all, I want to make sure my text is centered. I just think that's something that I like visually. And then we want to add our image. So you double click image. It'll have you choose one from your laptop. So I saved a Beyonce PNG. And the reason why you choose a PNG is because it'll show up transparent. And you'll see what I mean after I put it in. But we also want to embed the article into this picture so that when you click the picture, you see the article. So we're going to copy and paste that. Great. So this is why I suggested we use a PNG, because now you don't have a background or anything behind Beyonce. You're just seeing her in this photo. We'll make this a little bit bigger. Great, so we have that there. Now we have to put our other paragraph right underneath. Like I said, I like to copy and paste so that we have it right there. And you're just gonna go through the same steps. Same steps. You want to pick the same colors. I mean, you can change the text however you like, but I like to make sure the colors are consistent just so that everything looks together, everything looks thought out, and everything looks like it matches. Center it. Now, because we have things as floating, we're going to have to drag them and put them wherever we want. But that's okay. It's relatively easy to do. Just use your mouse and put them wherever you'd like. So from here, we're just going to drag and drop the different parts that we created. So first, at the top, we're going to put our main artist. And we don't really need the key for this because people can look at it and see that we have our main artist. So I just X that out. But it's taking up quite a bit of space, so we're going to shrink it a bit. And then if we wanted to fill up the entire area that we have reserved for it, put entire view. So great, now we have our main artist. Then from there, in the visualization, we have our music videos over time, video directors, directors by gender, and director by race. So then all you do, literally, it's a drag and drop. Drag and drop. You're going to make sure that it's wide. You're going to make sure that it's big and it's visible so that people can see it when they look into the visualization. You're going to add video directors. Now the bubble chart, it's going to be interesting. You might have to play with it a little bit more because it's not like the bar graph where it's vertical. You're just going to have to play with it till it looks the way you would like. But again, you're going to have to fit it to your entire view. So that it's put in the center, so that it's large enough so that it looks exactly the way you want it to look, so that people are getting the most out of that visual. So here we have director by gender. It doesn't need to be as long because it's only 3 categories, but we still want to make sure that we make it large enough so that people are getting the most out of it. And here we're going to add directors by race. That's our last chart. But we're looking at this and we want to add one last final paragraph of text. But we don't really have any more space. That's okay. All we have to do is just add a little bit more. So let's say make this 2750. Now, automatically, it will kind of just increase everything else or space everything else out. You don't really want that because you want to put more in it. So what you're going to do is pull everything else up a bit so that you can fit more at the bottom of the visual. Pull it up, pull it up. Now we have a little bit more space at the bottom, but we actually do need a bit more. So let's make it 2950. Like I said, what Tableau does is it tries to fill up the space, so it'll just make everything else you have larger, but that's okay. That just means we can make the things we have smaller, put them a little bit closer together. We want to fill up the space we have anyway, so that's okay. But we do want to make sure we have enough space to put our concluding paragraph. So great, now we have a little bit more space at the bottom. What we're going to do for our concluding paragraph, so we're going to copy and paste, just like we did with our other text. Paste it in there, make sure it's consistent with our color and our font. Our size, center it. Then all we have to do is just put it right here at the bottom. Now the thing about Tableau is if someone's not as familiar with Tableau, you might want to put blurbs under your charts so that people understand what each chart is supposed to be representing. Just a small description, which I have over here. And you can just copy and paste those right under the sheet names. But we want to keep those consistent with our font. Keep them consistent with our font, but we want to make their size a little bit smaller. You want to make sure they're consistent with the color as well. So we're going to go through and we're going to do that for all of our charts, just so that people understand what exactly this chart is depicting, and so that they can navigate through the visual easily. And it's a copy and paste, just as simple as that. Make sure our font matches up. You can honestly mix the colors of the font. Just make sure that there's no colors that weren't already in the visual. For example, I wouldn't make something blue just because it wouldn't match what I already have. But you can mix the oranges, the yellows that you have. I personally think that looks nice. I'm gonna paste. Like I said, make sure that it's consistent with the font we had. Font has to be consistent, size has to be consistent, color needs to be consistent. And like I said, you don't have to pick the yellow. You can make it the orange if you want, but because everything else we have is yellow, you might as well keep the yellow. And let's add a blurb for director by race. Again, consistency, consistency, consistency. But it's the same thing. You're going to do that for all the charts. It's literally the exact same thing. So great, we have that here. And this is the visual. Now, I will say there are some things that I've learned while making Tableau visualizations. And basically, the main thing is that Tableau is entirely drag and drop. Here are the 5 steps or keys or tips to remember. So Tableau is almost entirely drag and drop. It looks much more intimidating than it is, but we literally just drag categories and drop measure values for every single thing. It's drag and drop. Also, using color to make things look more in depth and show multiple different aspects can work to your benefit. It makes the visual look great, but it also helps you show more information. For example, this is about video directors, who Beyonce has used most, but by using these colors, we can also separate them by gender, and it looks good. Also, as I've said a few times, changing the background makes the visualization pop more. When you use a white background, it's just not as appealing in my opinion. So people want to look at something if it looks cool, if it looks interesting. So I always like to change my background from white to something else. In addition, Tableau is not just a tool that can be used to display datasets, it's also something that I use to teach me about the dataset that I'm making a visual on. So it's not always just for your audience. Sometimes you can learn a lot for yourself from the Tableau visualization. For example, I learned that Beyonce works with this director, Melina Matsoukas, a lot, but I also learned that she works with the majority of male directors, which is something I didn't know. But because I put in Tableau, I was able to interpret it. Also, when creating a dashboard, I like to use up almost all of my space so that it appears to be showing a lot of information. When you have too much empty or open space, it can appear kind of blank and as though you're not showing as much. But from here, we're going to save it to Tableau Public. Our Beyonce visual. It might take a minute to save because this is quite a bit in here. But here it is. It's saved onto Tableau. It's a scroll, just like we had intended. And it's connected to our article. So thank you for watching. And remember, Tableau is literally not as intimidating as you might think it is. It's just a matter of dragging and dropping.